We are using the stream for the first time, so this is a learning experience for us as well. So anyway, very good morning and happy Diwali to all of you. Now I already see certain questions. So essentially the common theme about that question is that do you require the knowledge of programming for this course, right? And it's kind of obvious that not, right? And this is introduction to programming. If you have to know programming to learn programming, that kind of becomes infinite recursion. So those who know this joke will get it. As far as this course is concerned, we do not assume anything your knowledge about programming, right? So whether you don't know programming, that's completely fine. We'll start completely from scratch, from zero. Okay, so I believe that should be fine. I think that most of the questions are like that only. There was one question that do you need some software for programming? So yes, two software are required. One is called compiler, right, and we'll talk about that soon. And another is editor. So editor will be used for writing. So for example, if you are using Windows, it could be Notepad or not Notepad plus, I think Notepad plus, or any other editor that you feel like fine. And compiler is the one that takes your program and it converts into something that the computer understands, right? Because as you know that computer does not speak the language that we do. So you have to sort of convert it into, it's everything at the end of the day in computer is 0 and 1. There is a link in the description of this live stream that how to download. So GCC is a compiler. How to download and install GCC in your system. So there are two links given, one for Windows and one for Ubuntu. Right, so this is an introduction to programming course. ID is 1063. And all the lectures are going to be streamed via the same channel. The channel name is Sangana, so via the same channel. So for notification or when the stream is going to be, you may subscribe to this channel. And sometimes certain supplementary videos also I'll put, which will not be it won't be the live lecture, but I'll just add some videos to help you get along for the program. Time slot for this, so let's go one by one. So instructor, there are two instructors. The lectures will be taken by me. My name is Saurabh Joshi, by the way, and your lab session will primarily be handled by Dr. Arvind, and I have given the link to the web page. You do not have to take notes. This slides will be made accessible to you. As per the schedule, actually there need to be 1 contact hour for the lecture and 3 contact hours for the lab. So the lab is it's a 3-hour lab on every Wednesday from 2:30 to 5:30. Let's talk about the course breakup. So it is a 3-credit course. Sometimes people ask what is a credit. And here is the course breakup regarding the evaluation. So lab exercise will be 15 points plus or minus 5 points. Try to sort of attend the lectures and lab, etc. And there is 15 points for that. There will be quizzes that will be approximately 30 points and plus or minus 10 points. There will be programming exams. I think about 2 to 3 programming exams will be there. So let me just write that either 2 or 3 programming exams will be there, and for which the weightage is going to be 55 points. So quizzes are also kind of exams, but they are not programming. It will be some kind of a question answer thing, what you do in JEE. After you are enrolled on that LMS, we will be using that LMS to conduct the course. That means that there will be discussion forum. If there are assignments or certain things, announcement, etc., everything will be posted on that LMS. You can see your marks, evaluation, etc., of the quiz, etc., also on the LMS, which is Learning Management System. So just wait for 2-3 days and you will be given invite for that. You can ask doubts and queries. So there will be lab session, at least for this lab session. So you can make yourself familiar with this website called repl.it, repl.it. So if you type that, see a website like this, right? And in this one, you can just say, if you click here on start coding, then it is going to ask you to sign up first. So you do not have to create a separate username password. What you can do is that you can just click on this, I hope that you are able to see my screen, click on this Google icon, and you can use your IIT Hyderabad. So I am already logged in over here, but if you click on that, you will be asked for your, so you can use your Google G Suite ID and password to log in via Google authentication. So once you log in, it supports many programming language. So in fact, let me just create a new REPL for you, just so that so for example, I'll say new REPL, it will ask which language, and I'll say C. I have to give some name, so introduction. You can give any name that you like, and then if I say create REPL, it's going to create that. You do not have to bother about installing compilers, editors, etc. Everything is right here online available to you. But yes, eventually you will have to learn to use a compiler, to learn to use editor, and do these things offline. So this is completely online thing, and there is already a hello world program given over here. And if you want to run, you can click on run and it will just run the code. Right, so you make yourself familiar with that, and we'll come back to this later on. So very important thing is, do not shy away from asking questions. Right, and there is one quote that if you ask a question, it may make you look stupid for 5 minutes, right? Because you might wondering whether this question is trivial or whether this is a stupid question, etc. So it may make you look stupid for 5 minutes, but if you do not ask, you stay stupid for 50 years, right? So always ask question in your life. If I am using a word in English that you are not familiar with it, you please feel free to ask questions. So I will try to keep my English as simple as possible and not use very difficult word, because I understand that many of you might have come from non-English board during your schooling. So now what are the references? People ask that what is the book, etc. So the primary learning source can be the C programming language by the inventor of this programming language. So we are going to use C programming language as a tool to learn about programming. There are a lot of programming languages. At least few years ago, one of my students found this number that there are at least about 700 programming languages are there, and new languages keep coming up every day. But we'll see that there are certain things which are common to most of the programming languages. So we'll talk about certain aspects, certain ideas and concepts of programming, and we'll use C programming as a tool. But please do note that there are certain concepts that are applicable to many languages, whereas certain things that is specific to C is only applicable to C programming language and not to others, right? So this is the book, The C Programming Language by Cunningham and Ritchie. Having said that, this book is somewhat outdated. And why am I saying outdated? Because so even for programming language, so programming languages also evolve, right? Just like the English language evolves. So 400, I don't know, 300, 400 years back, I don't know when Shakespeare was, the English language used to be thou shalt not do this, etc. But nobody speaks like that anymore, at least, right? So English language has also evolved, and similarly programming language, all programming language, be it Python or Java or C, they evolve, right? So for example, I think that now there is Python version 3.8. What does it mean? It means that the language has undergone several changes and now it is at version 3.8. Similarly, the programming language C has also undergone revision. There are some new features. There are some features that have been made obsolete. That means that they are no longer considered part of the valid C programming language. So the standard keeps evolving. So these are the reference to the standard. I do not expect you to read that, but think of the standard as what they call the ultimate go-to document. So whenever you have doubt, let's say that you write some expression, some program, and if you want to know that what exactly this program does as per the current standard, then that is the standard you have to go to. So I have given you the link to the latest public draft available for the standard. So the standard by themselves are not freely available, but whatever the latest publicly available copies are available, I have given the link over here. And why are these standards important? Because they define that what all the constructs of the languages mean, right? So in the English language, for example, Shakespeare introduced 400 different words, etc., right? So you come up with a word and then he says that, okay, from now on this word means this, right? I mean, in our lifetime, so in your lifetime also, you would have seen that things like Google, right? So Google was not a word, but then a company came, and now the Google has become a verb, that to Google something, right? It's a very valid verb. Similarly, the languages keep evolving, but if you want to know that what is the current status, so you can think of standard as the ultimate guide, that what does this particular program in the language mean exactly. You don't have to read it. I don't expect you to read it, but there are a lot of things that when you write a program, there will be certain things which the standard does not specify. Standard marks it as that if you do something like this, how your program behaves is unspecified or undefined, etc. Right? And it's okay if you do not know what does unspecified behavior mean. We'll all talk about these things later. But yeah, so these are the sort of ultimate documents, the final wording on what a particular program, how the particular program should behave, right? But as far as this course is concerned, it's just okay. You can read this book. So we'll primarily use this book by the inventor of the language itself. It's somewhat obsolete, but that's fine. I think that in the introduction to programming course, this is just fine. But later on, that the C program has evolved quite a lot, and the latest standards are available over here. Okay, so moving on, I think that there is few more things, and then I'll again go back to Slido, and okay, I think there is a spelling mistake. Yeah. So this is the problem that we often face. So there is this word called plagiarism. Now what does that word mean? In the simple words, you might be familiar with the words like cheating, copying, and things like this, right? So using somebody else's work and you claim it as your own. So in your exam, when you copy, it is actually somebody else's idea, somebody else's work. You just copy it and then you submit as your own paper. That is called plagiarism. Now this is considered the ultimate academic sin when you do that. So plagiarism is is the ultimate academic crime. So the policy of the anti-plagiarism policy rather. So this is in this link. Let me just open this link. Can I go to this URL? Right, so you can go over here. So on the home page, if you go, and you will see academic, and you can click on this anti-plagiarism policy, and you will see that what this policy is. There is a frequently asked questions. So please, this is very important that you go through this. Right, that means that it's not only that do not copy, but there is a ask question that somebody else copied, etc. Now using any kind of plagiarism or any unethical mean, things that you should not do, may lead to FR grade. You will straight away fail this course. Doesn't matter whether you might have done excellently well in quizzes, in some programming exam, etc. But this is the policy of IIT Hyderabad, that if you found copying or doing some unethical, it may lead to FR grade. You will straight away fail, right? So please don't do that. And the burden is on you to prove your innocence. So when you submit a program, there is a way to check that whether the program has similarity with somebody else's code, etc. And then you have to prove it is your burden. You have to prove that no, this is completely written by me. It is my idea and I have written, right? So if you are in doubt whether you should do certain things or not, you please ask the instructor. Don't just do it, right? So whether should I do it or not? So for example, let's say that you are given some programming assignment, right? It is okay to discuss ideas, not in front of computer, etc. But let's say that in the corridor or something, it is completely okay to discuss ideas that how do we go about solving a problem. So programming is about solving some problem, and we will see like what it means for programs. It's okay to discuss ideas, but when I say discuss, it only means high level things, right? You can't say that okay, first you declare int a, then you write printf, etc. These are not ideas. You are actually telling that how exactly to write things. So don't do that, right? Only high level ideas that perhaps you can use an array, perhaps you can use a recursion. That is an idea, right? So discussing ideas are fine. You can discuss with teaching assistants, you can discuss with instructor, that is myself or Dr. Arvind, you can discuss with friends, etc. But never ever discuss directly the code or program, or let anybody see your program, etc. Right? So you have to keep you have to protect your program. You have to ensure that this nobody else sees that. And why this is called ultimate academic scene? Because when you come over here, you come here for learning, right? And that's why you should focus on learning. If you get sick, and let's say that you go to a new neighborhood, you have moved house, you have moved to a new city, you do not know neighborhood of the city, etc. And if you become sick, what do you do, right? What you do is that you ask around that which doctor is good, and then people say that what some XYZ doctor is good, and you go to that doctor. Now why does that happen? Do you ask for a transcript that okay, what was the grade of the doctor in anatomy or in physiology or something? No. Nobody, once you are outside, right? Once you are outside IIT Hyderabad, nobody asks that what grade did you get. Everybody is bothered about whether are you good at your job, whether you have the skill set to do the task given to you. That's it. Your grade does not matter, your transcript does not matter, whether you are from even IIT or not, that does not matter. It has absolutely no value outside in the real world. The only thing that matters for you to succeed is that do you have the skill set and the knowledge to do the task or job given to you, right? That's the only thing. So please focus on learning, and when you copy, when you cheat, you are not really learning. It's just you're just copying. So somebody else might have learned, but you did not. You are just copied. You don't know why your program works or why your program does not work. So both of these things, and it is really not worth it. So today's lecture is mostly about this course. So we might actually start in the next lecture in going into technical details. We still have some time. So just a simple calculation, right? So let's say that you are an average student. So typically the average students get around 7.5 to 8 CGPA. I am assuming that you have total 120 credits to work with. So let's say that you are an average student, and let's assume that your average CGPA maybe 7.5, maybe 8. So let's consider 8 in 117 credits. This course is a 3 credit course, right? So let's assume for a moment that if you don't do well in a 3 credit course and receive a C grade, so C grade is equivalent to 6 points. So credit system is a weighted average, right? So it will be 6 multiplied by 3. So the formula, let me just write down what the formula is. Right, so the way it is going to work, right, so I am hoping that the font size is large enough So essentially, let's say that you have only 3 courses, and in one course you got A, one course you got B, and another course you got C. And there are all 3 credit courses, so that means a total of 9 credits, right? So the way credit system works is that A is equal to 10 points, B is equal to 8 points, so there is a B minus as well, which is 9 points, and C is equal to 6 points, right? And all of these are 3 credits, so it will be 10 into 3 plus 8 into 3 plus 6 into 3, and all of this entire thing you divide by the total number of credits, which is 9. So this formula gives you your CGPA. So it's a weighted average, nothing else. So if you do bad, and let's say you get a C grade, C or C minus, etc., then what happened? Your resultant CGPA, instead of 8, so if you were average performer, maybe you might get B, but for some reason it's just you are not really connecting with the programming, not able to really learn, you will just end up with 7.95, which is the difference of only 0.05. Now just think about it. Is it really worth trying to cheat for 0.05 points? Because if you cheat, then you directly you may fail the course, right? So it's not worth it. But the primary thing that why it is not worth it is that you break the trust, right? So this is a rephrasing of the dialogue. So there is this TV series Scam 1992 based on this Harshad Mehta scam. I don't know if you are watching that or not. In there is one dialogue which says that trust is the most expensive commodity, right? Because it is very much in demand but very short in supply, right? So let's increase the supply of that. And the second thing is that it is good for your own self-confidence, that you are able to do things on your own. So okay, are MacBooks good for programming? I mean, so they are just computers, so as long as you have the compiler for so I think that Macs I'm not really sure whether it by default sort of comes with GCC. It comes with Clang, which is another compiler that is also fine, I think, for this course. I use Linux. Will that be a problem? No, it's not at all a problem. In fact, that especially if you are, it's a very fantastic operating system to learn. It's the right operating system to learn and know and have the freedom. So can we use code blocks? Yes, if you are familiar with. So code blocks is one of the integrated development environment. Yes, you can use that. Many of you do not know what IDE is. We'll talk about that later. Simulating physics problem, yeah, will take everything one step at a time. What's a compiler? So in a simple word, compiler is a piece of software. So typically the C programming language is considered high-level programming language, which sort of we can kind of understand, but computer does not, the processor, etc. So compiler is a kind of software which takes language in the form that we understand and converts it into a form that the compiler understands. Right? Yes, if you are familiar with VS Code or Atom, you can use that. That's completely fine. Can we use DevC compiler? See, I would prefer that you stick with GCC as much as possible, so that the different compilers have different kind of implementation, and many times you write the program, but if you compile with different compilers, the end result would be different. We'll talk about that as well, that why that is the case. So it's better if you use GCC. Hopefully for this introduction to programming course, we will not run into those kind of programs. But try to use GCC. Can we use Eclipse IDE? Yeah, any IDE that you are familiar with, that is fine. Can we use Turbo C compiler? No way, not at all. Turbo C is, dinosaurs used to use Turbo C compilers. We should not use Turbo C compilers. It is nowhere close to what C language currently is, right? And it is not even standard. A lot of things in Turbo C is not even standard C. So no, we will not be using Turbo C. Must not be using Turbo C. So yeah, see, any editor or any ID, if you are already familiar with it, that is fine. Some of you may not be even familiar what an ID is. That's also fine. And that is why I asked you that, at least for the initial few sessions, we'll do it online on rappel.it, because there like everything is ready, the ID is online, and you can see the terminal, etc. Okay, so I believe that programming and coding in Android. Yeah, I don't know if GCC is available in Android or not. So like typically we assume mostly people use Windows, some people use Linux. Android, I don't know whether GCC is available for Android or not. So yeah, I don't know what to say. So try to use GCC. If it is available on Android, it's well and good. Otherwise, maybe try to get some Linux or something, etc. What to prefer? Windows is completely up to you. But especially if you are in computer science, etc., or generally, like even if you are not in computer science, Linux is very good operating system to know and learn. So if you can invest time in learning Linux, that would be good. But in this course, I'm not assuming any particular operating system. So let's just talk about what is a program. Now, if it was a physical class, I would actually get your opinion about what you think is a program. But since that kind of interaction is not possible in the current circumstances, right? So let me show you a very simple program. So you see that this, right? You can see this. So this is the simplest program that is possible, right? This switch, right? Some of you may think that no, how can a program look like? See, the thing is that computer program is just a subset of the programs. This is the simplest program. What is a program? Well, any kind of mechanism, systematic things where it is designed, it behaves in certain fashion to accomplish some tasks, right? So it's a very vague definition, and that's the all things matter, right? As you might have seen Three Idiots, we are not really bothered about what is the bookish definition, as long as you understand the concept, right? So you can understand that this is a program, one switch, right? And now the moment you have program, you have a concept called a state of inside your program, right? So for example, this switch has two states. It says 0 and 1. That means that 0 means off, the switch is in off state, and 1 means that it is in on state. Okay, very good, right? So I do some action when it is in state 1, then it goes to state 0, and if I press in state 0, then it goes to state 1, and vice versa. Now what happens if I press on 0 when it is already in state 0? Nothing, right? Nothing changes. Similarly, what happens, so if it is in so 1 is pressed, and what happens now if I keep on pressing 1, nothing happens, right? So what does it mean? Okay, so now what I can do is that I can think of my program. Forget about computer program for a moment, right? So those of you who already know C, C++, let's get the basics correct, right? So program can be thought of as, so let me just draw a circle, right? This is my state. On state, so I drew a switch, and if I want to write mathematically, then what is that program? What is the mathematical description of that program? So that is what we are trying to do over here. We are drawing mathematical description of this program. There is a off and on, right? And now what I can do is that if from on, if my action is press, then I go to off state, and from off if I take the action of press, then I go to on state, right? And I have already showed you, so if it is already off, and then if you press, what happens? Nothing changes, you are still in the same state. Similarly, if it is on and if you press, what happens? Nothing happens, right? So you can think of programs as this, so I have drawn these two circles and then these arrows. So these arrows are called transition. Also in mathematics sometimes they are called directed edges. Directed because it's an arrow. If I just draw a line which connects to two of these circles. These circles, so these circles are often known as nodes or vertices, right? But I mean, in terms of programming, these circles can be thought of as states. And when I say states, I don't mean Telangana, Tamil Nadu, etc. I mean the state of the program. That program is in which state, right? So you can talk about the temperature is a state variable. So temperature can be 100, can be 96.8, etc. Right? And then if there are states, then you do something, you do some action, or sometimes even without action, you change the state. You go from one state to another state. So that these edges, right? So these arrows are often called edges, or for programming terms, they are also called transitions, right? And so that means that your program, no matter what your program is, the program can be a switch, the program can be a Rubik's cube. So I don't have a Rubik's cube with me. What is the state? So state will be all the, so 6 into 9, 54, right? Yeah, so it has this, all these 54, and what is their color? So it has 54 state variable, and what is their color? So one state will be the valuation of all this 56, right? So okay, this 56 is very, but imagine that this has 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's talk about that. If there are 4 switches, right? Then if there are 4 switches, then how does it look like? So let me give name to the switches. So let me give name as S1, S2, S3 and S4. I'm just giving them names just to identify, right? Now, so S1, how many values that S1 can take as a switch? It can be on or off, right? And similarly for all others, right? So all of them. So that means that my one state, when I draw a circle, so one state is what? That let's say that this is on, and then let's say that S2 is off, and let's say that S3 is also off, and let's say that S4 is on. So this is one state. S1, S2, S3, S4 in my system or in my program, they are called state variables. Each of them can take different values. So temperature, is it a state variable? Yes. What is the state? I don't know. And for example, if right now, if the room temperature is, let's say, 30 degrees Celsius, then that is the state. Now if I put a heater, that is the action that start the heater, then it is going to a different state, which will be maybe 32 degrees Celsius, etc. Right? So here, now if my program or my system, so program in general can be anything, right? It can be traffic light, elevators. I would go on so far to say, for example, DNA, right? Is DNA a code? Yes, it is a code, at least in a very broad sense of the word. Any system which follows some kinds of rule, you have some idea that if you do this, this will happen, etc. We have decoded genome, that this gene is responsible for this. So in that sense, we can think of even DNA and even ourselves as programs. It's a very, very broad sense, right? So this is the state. And now if I press, so let's say that now I say that, okay, press or basically toggle, rather I'll just say, instead of press, I'll write, let's say, toggle S2. Let's say that this is the action that I perform. Then what state do I go to? I'll go to S1 does not change, and now S2 changes. So S2 changes from off to on, right? Because that is the one that we have toggled. And the other guys do not change. Like somewhat you got the idea, right? We'll continue this, we'll develop on this line of thought, that if I want to describe my program in somewhat, in a visualize or in some mathematical, I can think of it as a state. Program can be anything, right? So there would be, in a program, there will be something in any system, there will be state variables, and then a state variable might take different values, which will be called the state. So when you take values of all the state variable at any given moment, at any given time, that is called a state of the entire system, right? So for example, this has only one switch, but if there is multiple switch, then I can keep on toggling. So what will be the state? This is on, this is off, this is on, this is off, kind of a thing, right? So every switch will be in some state, and the entire system, so that means that this entire switchboard will have some state, right? So I hope that at least we got the idea about state variable and states. So state variable is anything which can take multiple values. It could be temperature, it could be pressure, it could be volume, and things like that. You can just think that a lot of things. So you can say which color. So color can be a state variable, and the value of a particular color can be the state. So this state variable is in this state, and then when you put all of the state variables together, that forms the state of the entire system, right? So I hope that this much I have been able to convey as an idea. You got a very broad, very general understanding, I hope, about what is program,